Hello everyone, I'm Adam with CLNotes, and in this video, in the second part of a three-part series on CLNotes and user case scenarios in the forestry department, specifically at the University of British Columbia, I'm going to be talking about how we can interact with some of these resources that we created in the last video. And I'm going to show you about how CLNotes really makes these resources very interactive and very accessible for students, and also how they can do some really fun stuff for the teachers as well. Now, I'm going to go actually into one of the book chapters that we imported last time from the Open Education Resource Forestry book, and the chapter on stand growth and development over time. So I'm just going to click on this. Now, as a teacher, when we're making a class with a CL note, the reason why we would use CL notes in the first place is because it offers us a lot of really cool tools. So one of the main features is that it has a built-in dictionary. And what this means is either as a teacher or as a student, you can select certain vocabulary words and have definitions shown in a dictionary of your choice. And we have the Oxford English Dictionary as a default here. But as you can see, there are also other dictionaries for speakers of other languages. And I know just from reading some of the blogs on Patrick Colbert's forestry blog that there are quite a few students who are coming from other countries. And I myself, I teach in the Department of Continuing Studies at UBC, where a lot of our students who come in from China or Japan or the United Arab Emirates or any of these countries, a lot of them are going into forestry, and they're learning language. They're learning English first, of course, before they go into the department. But of course, even if you study English quite a bit, there are a lot of specific terms that might be challenging. And in that case, a dictionary like an English Chinese dictionary or English Arabic or something like that, one of these would be very useful for these students, so that instead of having to uh, go into a dictionary on their own, or like in the middle of a group discussion, perhaps you're having a collaborative discussion activity with your students, instead of the students kind of getting away from the group discussion and looking up words on their own, which takes time and distracts from productivity as a collaborative activity. You can have the students just go in, and a word that they might not understand, like ratio, they click on it, and what happens here is a definition will pop up. And sometimes when you're just doing the first one here, it takes a little bit for the system to kind of load up here. But you can see now that it pops up and gives you a nice English definition. Uh, it works for any word. And now you see it's quite a bit faster. And as, for example, an ESL student or even a native student, even for myself, there are words that perhaps I haven't heard before, or words that maybe I know the definition of, but it would be nice if I had an extra definition anyways. This will allow you to do that. And again, like if I'm from another country or something like that, maybe I'm Chinese, I could choose this one, and I could get words like this, like current, in my language right away, instantly. And this is very, very useful because it just saves a lot of time in the classroom, makes the class just that much more dynamic. Now, as an instructor, ideally, you would have some ideas for some words. I'm going to go back to the English dictionary here in the meantime, but maybe some words that I want my students to know, or students that I want them to be familiar with. And so maybe I plan on having words like harvest on a test, for example. So words like this, I might want to go and click on. And what this means is later on, which we'll see in video 3, we can actually take these words that I've selected, in addition to words that students have selected. And you'll notice when students select words, it'll show up on the teacher's page in different colors. You are able to make activities with that very, very easily, which just makes everything very dynamic and very awesome. So this is one way of going through and just finding, for example, vocabulary words. You can see this one. Now, canopy here, it's showing another definition that's not really related to forestry. Now, as always, we want to make sure that we save. There's a save button here. Let's take a look at what we can do in that sort of situation. Well, if you click on reading and then click on key terms here, it gives you a list of the words that you've selected. And what you can do here is click on a word and you can actually redefine the word. So I don't like these definitions. I'm going to click on this one that hides all the previous definitions. And I'm going to add my own definition of canopy. And canopy, actually, I have the handy dandy Forestry wiki here that I can take a look at and find a definition of canopy in the UBC Forestry Dictionary. Let's take a look here. Canopy. So a canopy here is defined as the more or less continuous cover of branches or foliage formed by adjacent trees. So I could actually take this and I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring this right into my CL note. I'm going to paste this and save. And when you've created your own definition, you can see here that it gives a little star next to it. Let's scroll down back to that word again and see what happens when we highlight over it. So you can see here that we actually have our own definition showing up now. And what that means is if your students are going through one of these readings or something, they could have your definitions when they're going through the vocabulary words to help them understand things in the way that the teacher wants them to understand them, which I feel is very valuable. Now, this might take a while to do. And so what I've done is I've also taken a look at another feature which we have in CLNotes, which is a glossary feature, which allows you to import glossaries from textbooks. But what I've done is a little bit different. I actually went into the UBC wiki and I created a glossary with a whole bunch of words from the UBC wiki. So just showing here that we can actually take words and create terms in our glossary here very, very easily. So for example, if I want to add a new term, I've already added quite a few here. But for example, let's add a new term to this glossary here. Let's take a look. What is the cool word here? Kurtosis. I have no idea what that is. Now, this one here, it actually has a definition also in Chinese, and we can take all of that for this definition here. So what I can do is first, let's just take the word here, kurtosis, and I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste that into the term here in the glossary, and then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to just take this entire definition here. I'm going to copy this, so I'm using Control-C here, and I'm going to, and I'm going to paste it in the definition and click Save. And now if we go down here, kurtosis is now a definition in the glossary. Now, the really cool thing about this, I'm going to click Save Changes here for the glossary. I'm going to go back to that reading, and now this could apply to, like this is an open education resource, which has its own glossary. But for example, let's say I want to use the glossary that was developed at the UBC Wiki for these resources so that I can get the definitions that have been come up with collaboratively by all the people at UBC who have put together this wonderful, really cool Wikipedia glossary of forestry terms. Well, I'm going to go to Teacher Tools here, and I'm going to click on Glossary, and I'm going to say forest. So I typed on forest there, and it's exact matches only. So it didn't come up with forest, but I typed in UBC, and if I typed in forestry, I would have been able to find this glossary here. And I'm going to click on the glossary. Now what this is going to do is overlay this entire, well, all of the UBC Wikipedia glossary words that I have imported thus far. And keep in mind that if this is Patrick Colbert or any other professor who wants something like this, they could get maybe some of their graduate students to upload the entire glossary into CLNotes here, so that when you've uploaded this whole glossary, it means that you'll be able to overlay the entire glossary over top of any resource you like. So let's take a look here. Look at this. So now all these green highlights are, they're from the glossary at UBC, from the Wikipedia glossary here. And what this means is now when students highlight over top of something, they can see here the definition of a stand from the glossary on the UBC website. So we have the definition, and it also has the word in Chinese and unfortunately doesn't have Spanish or French here. Let's take a look at another word here. How about silviculture? Oh, great. So this one, you can see here, has the word silviculture, and it tells you the English definition, it tells you the Spanish, the French, the Chinese, everything like that. And again, keep in mind, you can do this over any resource. And I'm going to show you this feature with some of the different resources that we have here. So just taking a look at this, like all these things, understory, again, another great one, has it in Spanish, French, and Chinese. Now this is super useful. This means that any students who are looking through this, any students from the forestry faculty, especially since it looks like Chinese, French, and Spanish have been highlighted as important languages or important groups there, uh, any students from these countries would be able to go through these readings that you're going over in class and instantly have the definitions of these words. And this is just so useful, so convenient, and it makes the reading very interactive. And again, you could imagine as students are doing this in class, if they're having a conversation or discussion, so easy. Look, just put your mouse over top of it. You don't have to click it or anything. Just put your mouse over it. You get this definition, and you can continue on in the active conversation, contribute actively. It's just in terms of collaborative work, it's a really useful feature. So I'm going to save this here. And you see we have all these key terms here, and it shows you how many key terms are in here. And once again, you can go through and edit any of these by going into reading and the key terms, and you can edit the definitions here. But this is how we can interact with the reading here, both as a teacher and as a student. Now, another cool thing as a teacher is that we can go into the teacher tools and click on something called real time. Now, on another computer right now, I've logged in as a student, and so we can actually take a look at what this looks like in the class in real time when a student is clicking on some of these words. So I'm going to click on group by readers here. And as I go through and click on some words, you can see that these words are being shown here in real time. So when those words were selected, so you can see it was about 29 seconds ago, some of those words were selected. And as more words are selected by the student, the teacher can see these as the list sort of refreshes here. And this is really cool because this allows teachers to really get an idea of where their students are in the classroom, how they're doing, and what kinds of stuff they're selecting. So what this means is as students are going through, the teacher, you're able to see what they're selecting and what they're talking about. You can group things by words and see, for example, if multiple people have highlighted certain words. So for example, if maybe 4 or 5 people selected breakage, for example, it would say breakage times 4, breakage times 5. And this is really, really useful, again, for just being able to really know what's going on in the class and where people are at, what people are maybe caught up on, or maybe what the topic of discussion is, because maybe a bunch of people have just highlighted this, and you can see more and more words are being added here as I, the student, go through and select these words. And of course, from the teacher's view, I can see what's going on with all of these students in the class. And it's just really, really great as a tool. We're going to go back into reading, and we have another feature for annotation. So not only can we highlight the words, but we can also annotate entire sections of the text. So if there's a specific section that you want to talk about or you want to add a note about, maybe it's something from one of your own research papers that you'd like to link, or maybe it's something that will show up on a test in the future. We just click annotate and find something we'd like to annotate. Maybe we could annotate, I don't know, something around here. Maybe this sentence is really important for some reason. And you highlight this and you'll get a box which allows you to do a whole bunch of things. You can make a comment, you can ask a question to start up a discussion, you can make an example of something, you can give advice about something, or you can even give a definition for something. So maybe this sentence is talking about, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a forestry expert. Maybe it's about like crown status or something like that. And so you save that. And now when students are going through this reading, they can go over this highlight or highlight this annotation and see what you wrote here. So you could write out an entire thing like, this is going to be on the Unit 1 test at the end of the week or something like that. And so in this way, you can annotate things in just a really cool way that's very clean and also can be used for tests and stuff. So for example, this could be given as a clue, and the answer to the exercise could be crown status, for example, the definition that we gave there. So this is just really useful and really awesome. So you can do a lot of things. And the reason why we created the annotation feature here in the reading tab separately is because a lot of students these days are using tablets, or some of them are using their phones, which they can also use for CLNotes. But the issue is when you're using your finger, sometimes it's a little bit challenging to differentiate between clicks and click and drags for tablets. And so we've made that distinction just to make it a little easier. So you want to make sure that when you want to just click stuff, you just click stuff. And then when you want to annotate, you specifically go up to reading and you click on annotate. And when it looks like it's pressed down, it means it's active. I'm going to deactivate it here. And also you can see here that the annotation was also added to the stats here at the top. So we have the annotations listed. Let's go back to our other page here, our main class screen. So and you can see here also on the main page, it tells me how many terms have been highlighted by both myself and my students. Let's take a look at one of the other ones, like for example, the TED Talk here. And let's see, for example, I wonder if any of the words in the UBC Wikipedia glossary would apply here. So again, I have the choice to either highlight words myself, or you could get the students to highlight their own words. And you can go through and do things like, for example, I want to see if the glossary works here. Let's go to Teacher Tools and click on Glossary. And again, we're going to search for UBC, forestry terms, highlight all of the glossary terms, and let's see if there are any terms here. And the cool thing about this is not only does it allow you to add these terms here, well, not very many terms here from the UBC glossary here, just a few like understory. So this is again the UBC definition, which has it in French and Spanish and Chinese. The word species comes up quite a bit here. There are probably quite a few more words, but like as I said, I didn't import the entire Wikipedia glossary here, but if you did, you might be able to get a lot more. But this creates a consistent standard of vocabulary definitions across all the resources that you cover in class, which is just so useful because then you can be assured that the students are consistently getting a really good quality vetted definition for all of these words that will likely also be showing up on tests or some collaborative activities that you do in the class, etc., etc. So this is an example of how we can interact with these resources. Again, like I said, we have the multilingual dictionaries that we can choose up here. We have, of course, applying the dictionary from UBC over top, UBC Forestry, Wikipedia glossary, and we can do annotations, and we can, in real time, look at what the students are doing in the classroom, which is super useful and just such a great teacher tool. In the next video, I'm going to talk more about how we can use all of these interactions to create activities and things like that that are customized for each and every student in the classroom. So once again, I'm Adam with CLNotes, and remember, with CLNotes, we can teach more efficiently and learn more effectively. Bye-bye.